So static load means whose value is constant, and dynamic load which is changing with respect to time. So for the static load, the theories of failures are there are 5 theories. Maximum shear stress theory. Third one is maximum strain energy theory. Maximum strain energy theory. Fourth one is maximum distortion energy theory. And last one is maximum principal strain theory. ठीक है, तो इन 5 थ्योरीज को जरा मैं एक ग्राफ के माध्यम से आपको दिखा देता हूं. तो हाँ, दिस इज द ग्राफ. तो देखिए इसमें ये जो फर्स्ट डायग्राम आप देख रहे हैं, दिस इज द सिग्मा 1, दिस इज द सिग्मा 2. तो इसका मतलब ये कैसी प्रॉब्लम है? इट इज ए बाइनरी, है ना, इट इज ए बाईएक्साइल प्रॉब्लम. When there are two stresses, one in x direction, one is y direction, or there are two principal stresses, sigma 1 and sigma 2. What are principal stresses? Principal stresses are those stresses where the shear stress is 0. On the principal planes, the shear stress is 0. So sigma 1 and sigma 2, and if this is your safe region, so if your safe region is appearing in the form of a rectangle, then any other point apart from this rectangle, your design is not safe, your material will fail. So this failure theory, this is maximum principal stress theory. This failure theory states, एक second. हेलो जी सर. नहीं, क्लास स्टार्ट हो गई, बच्चे हैं सारे मेरे साथ, है ना. अभी मैं, हाँ, सब आ गए मेरे पास. पार्टिसिपेंट हैं इस वक्त 47. अच्छा, ठीक है, ठीक है. हाँ, तो रिकॉर्डिंग भी रहती है ना. is hexagon. From here, let this is point A, B, then this is point C, and then that is D point, and this is E point. So A, B, C, D, E is a hexagon, and this is a parallelogram over here. So this is shear stress theory, this is strain energy theory, and you are seeing ellipse over here. So you are getting ellipse in case of maximum distortion energy theory. So this is distortion energy case, and this is also an ellipse.
Clear.
Voice is not clear. Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir, voice.
एक सेकंड.
Yes, sir, voice.
दोबारा शेयर करता हूँ. Now the voice is clear. Am I audible? My voice is clear to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so and by this figure, I just want to inform you that there are different shape for the safe region. So in one theory, the shape is rectangle. In one theory, the shape is hexagon. In one theory, the shape is parallelogram. And in the two theories, the shape is ellipse. The last figure combines all the theories. तो ये स्टैटिक थ्योरीज के बारे में बात हो गई मेरी. इसके बाद हम बात करते हैं डायनामिक लोडिंग के लिए. तो डायनामिक लोडिंग के केस में द नेम ऑफ द थ्योरीज आर, वन इज गुडमैन थ्योरी, है ना, one is Soderberg theory, and one is Gerber theory. And so there are one type of mean stress is there, one is amplitude stress is there. So the combination of sigma m and sigma a decides the safe region. Combination of sigma m and sigma a decides the safe region. So if I draw the safe region as per the Goodman, then this is the point SUT, on the x-axis, and here is the point of endurance limit. So in case of dynamic loading, endurance limit is the main parameter. In case of static loading, ultimate tensile strength is the main parameter. And this endurance limit is depends on surface roughness also. So if you join endurance limit point with the SUT, then this is a Goodman line. So this triangle will be the safe region as per the Goodman criteria. When you join the SYT with the endurance point, then it is a Soderberg safe region. And when you join a parabola between the endurance limit and SUT, then it is known as Gerber parabola. So basically these three theories are used in case of fluctuating loading. ठीक है, तो हर थ्योरी का आपको एक एक स्टेटमेंट आना चाहिए. For the biaxial case also, for the triaxial case also, है ना. स्पेशली बाईएक्साइल के ही क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछे जाएंगे एग्जाम में, बिकॉज ट्राईएक्साइल स्टडी इज वेरी मच कॉम्प्लिकेटेड एंड दैट टेक्स मोर टाइम. सो फॉर स्मॉल क्वेश्चंस जो हैं वो ट्राईएक्साइल केस में नहीं फॉर्म हो पाते हैं एग्जाम के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. तो बाईएक्साइल क्वेश्चंस ही एग्जाम्स में आने की पॉसिबिलिटी रहती है. तो ये तो एक जनरल बात हो गई मेरी थ्योरीज के बारे में, है ना. बाकी डिजाइन में आपसे स्टेप्स, व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप ऑफ द डिजाइन, व्हाट इज द लास्ट स्टेप ऑफ द डिजाइन, है ना. तो व्हाट आर द जनरल स्टेप्स. तो सबसे पहला स्टेप क्या रहता है डिजाइन का? यू हैव टू फाइंड द नीड ऑफ द मार्केट, है ना. फर्स्ट यू हैव द नीड, एंड आफ्टर फाइंडिंग द नीड you will do the other steps, like other steps involves the material selection and the force analysis. You will do the force analysis. Force analysis is very important part. So for force analysis फिर इसमें बहुत सारे questions बन जाते हैं. अब जैसे कि आपसे for the forces I say that what is Lami's theorem, है ना. तो आपको बिल्कुल टिप्स पे होना चाहिए Lami's theorem. If three forces acting on a particle are, है ना, three concurrent forces, means they are passing through the same point. So let this is the force P, this is the force Q, this is the force R. Three concurrent forces acting on a particle are in equilibrium. Then each force is proportional to the sine of the angle between the other two. So angle between Q and R is alpha. So this means P is proportional to sine of alpha. Similarly, Q is proportional to sine of beta, R is proportional to sine of gamma, and finally the derivation comes P upon sine alpha is Q upon sine beta equal to R upon sine gamma. So this Lami's theorem is also very much important in the force analysis. For the moment case, the Varignon theorem is important. So what is Varignon theorem? If two forces are acting on a particle, then their resultant will be given by the parallelogram. This is the law of parallelogram. So R is the resultant of P and Q. Okay, suppose I am taking a point X over here in the space. So at this X, the force P will produce some moment. The force Q will also produce some moment. So the moment of P, moment produced by force P plus moment produced by force Q will be equal to moment produced by its resultant. So this is the Varignon theorem. This is also very much important from the moment point of view. And moment is further categorized into many categories. Suppose the examiner asks you what is the turning moment, what is the turning moment, what is the bending moment, what is the torsional moment, or torque you can say. So you can differentiate by taking a, suppose I am taking a scale over here. Let this is a scale and this is hinge over here on the wall. It is hinge over here. I am applying a force from here. Then it will rotate. It will rotate about the point O, about the hinge point O. So this force is producing somewhat of turning moment over here. So this is an example of the turning moment. Suppose the same scale I am fixed in the ground and I am applying a force over here, then the new position of this scale will be somewhat this position. So its initial position will be bent. So this force Q is now producing the bending moment. When the effect of the force is to bend the object, then that moment is known as bending moment. When effect of the force is to turn the object, then that moment is turning moment. When the effect of the force is to twist the object, then that is a twisting moment. So moment can be categorized into three. The unit of moment is Newton meter. And what is the unit of the force? Newton. And distance is meter. So moment is Newton meter, and it is a vector quantity. It may be clockwise or it may be anti-clockwise. Okay, what is the unit of work? The unit of work is also Newton meter. The unit of moment is also Newton meter. So work is force into distance in the direction of the force. Distance in the direction of the force. So that is the work, and the moment is we take the perpendicular distance always. And one is the scalar quantity, work is the scalar quantity, moment is the vector quantity. So Lami's theorem, and one more, D'Alembert principle is also important. D'Alembert principle. Suppose many forces are acting on a particle. So as per the Newton's second law, we have F equal to ma. We have F equal to ma. So suppose so many forces are acting on this particle. One is F1, one is F2, one is F3, one is F4. So each and every force will produce some acceleration. So this will move by an acceleration, final acceleration A, where the mass of the body is m. So suppose it is moving in a particular direction, and if I apply a force of ma in the reverse direction, then this whole body will be in dynamic equilibrium. This is the D'Alembert principle. तो एक तरह से D'Alembert principle न्यूटन सेकंड लॉ को ही एक्सप्रेस करता है, बट ये डायनेमिक इक्विलिब्रियम का बात है. न्यूटन सेकंड लॉ क्या कहता है? द समेशन ऑफ द फोर्सेस एक्टिंग ऑन ए पार्टिकल विल बी इक्वल टू मास इनटू एक्सीलरेशन. और D'Alembert प्रिंसिपल क्या कहता है कि यदि मास इनटू एक्सीलरेशन का एक फोर्स अपोजिट डायरेक्शन में अप्लाई कर दिया जाए बॉडी पर, देन दैट बॉडी विल बी इन डायनेमिक इक्विलिब्रियम. राइट. सो डिजाइन की स्टेप्स पे बात हो गई, फेलर थ्योरीज पे बात हो गई, स्टैटिक थ्योरीज पे बात हो गई, और वी हैव टू कंसीडर द सेफ डिजाइन. है ना, safe design, again for the safe design we will again take some factor of safety, because we should not work on the boundary cases. We always take some factor of safety. So when the parts are made of ductile material, the factor of safety may be 2 to 2.5. The less factor of safety can be used if the parts are made of ductile material. If the parts are made of brittle material, then we have to use more factor of safety. We have to use more factor of safety. For the dynamic loading, we have to use more factor of safety. There are always inaccuracies in the manufacturing of the parts. In manufacturing of the gears, gear errors are there. So we have to take care of factor of safety and try to convert the friction into rolling friction, because the value of the rolling friction is very, very less as compared to sliding friction. So in the case of bearings, in the case of rolling contact bearing, the friction is not at all worried. We does not consider the friction because the friction is very, very less. And life of the rolling bearing can be defined for from a lot. If 90% of the bearings are working satisfactorily, then for a particular period, then that period is known as the life of the bearing. In case of sliding contact bearing, friction plays very important role. Viscosity of the lubricant plays very important role. Then we have to consider according to that. In case of IC engine components, cylinder, piston, connecting rod. So connecting rod is again made of ductile material. Crankshaft is again made of ductile material. So for the connecting rod, what type of cross section is useful? Circular cross section is there. I section is there. for the connecting rod. Circular section is there, I section is there. This is the I section. So which section is more suitable for the connecting rod? This is one question in the exams always. So which section is more useful? So its answer is this: the I section is more useful, because in case of IXX and IYY are same in case of circular cross section, pi by 64 D4, and IYY is also pi by 64 D4. But in case of I section, the ratio of IXX and IY is 4.2. So that's why I section is more preferred by the mathematics, that this section is more useful in sustaining the dynamic loads or the whipping stress coming on the connecting rod. So in case of springs, you can say helical spring is there, leaf spring is there. So for helical spring, there are two basic design process. One is, you can say, the shear stress produced in the helical spring is given by the wall factor. And this wall factor is also important. Wall factor is given by 4c minus 1 divided by 4c minus 4 plus 0.615 divided by c. What is c over here? C is the spring index, and it is the ratio of the diameter of the coil divided by diameter of the wire. So C is the spring index, and capital A is the wall factor, and this wall factor includes the curvature effect in the spring. And what is the stiffness of the spring? Small k, and a capital K is the wall factor, small k is the stiffness of the spring. It is the ratio of the load per unit deflection. That the load is W, the deflection is delta, so K is W by delta. Right? Or you can say P by delta if P is the load over there. So this delta is again defined by 8 PdQN divided by GD4. So here G is the modulus of rigidity, D is the wire diameter, capital N is the number of the coils, and capital D is the coil diameter, P is the load coming on the spring, and delta is the deflection in this. So some small numericals always comes in the exam to find the deflection, find the number of coils. And in case of spring, there are end styles. One more important word is end styles. End styles. So when there are so many coils in a helical spring, the top coil and the bottom coil does not incorporate their effect in the deflection. So we take active coils equal to total coils minus 2. When bottom coil and top coil are not incorporating in the deflection, then we take the active coils equal to total coils minus 2. And in the formula, this N is the active coil. It is not the total coil. So this is about some helical spring. And in case of leaf spring, one word is very important, that is nipping. Always asked in the exam, what do you mean by the nipping in helical in case of leaf springs? So in a leaf spring, the structure is like that. There is some master leaf over there. This leaf, there are eyes present, left eye and right eye. And suppose after that there are some full length leaves over here. Some full length leaves are there. Then there are graduated leaves. The length of the leaves are reducing. They are clamped by some bolts. In trucks, buses, these springs are used. So in that case, in the case of leaf spring, what is nipping? Nipping means, because the length of the each leaf is different, and what do you mean by the stress? Stress will be more in the full length leaf, or stress will be more in the graduated length leaf? किस लीफ में स्ट्रेस की वैल्यू ज्यादा होगी, किस लीफ में स्ट्रेस की वैल्यू कम होगी? ठीक है, सपोज स्ट्रेस की वैल्यू हर लीफ में अलग अलग है, then system will not work effectively. So from design point of view, we require that the stress produced in each and every leaf must be same. each and every leaf must be same. So to keep the stress in each and every leaf must be same, we do the nipping of the leaves. ना हम उनकी क्या करते हैं, निपिंग करते हैं. तो निपिंग के केस में हम क्या करते हैं, द बेंडिंग ऑफ द लीफ इज डन फॉर द डिफरेंट डिफरेंट रेडियस, है ना. लेट दिस इज द रेडियस फॉर द फर्स्ट लीफ and this is the radius for the second leaf. So the radiuses are different. When when there is a U bolt is tightened, then there is a pre-stress produced in some leaves, which is of different nature. So after load application, the stress produced on each and every leaf is equivalent, and this gap is थोड़ी सी बात कर लेते हैं गियर वगैरह. तो गियर्स में देर आर स्पर गियर्स, हेलिकल गियर्स, है ना. वर्म गियर्स आर देयर, एंड which one gear? Bevel gear is also there. So in the case of spur and helical, the shafts are parallel, the teeth are straight. Shafts are parallel and teeth are straight. In case of spur also, in case of helical also. So at the higher velocities, which gears are suitable, spur or helical? At the higher velocities, helical gear supersedes the spur gear, because in spur gears there is a line contact between the pinion and gear, and in case of helical gear there is a point contact between the pinion and gear. So because there is a point contact, so there is less noise at the higher velocity in case of helical gear. So to avoid the noise at higher velocities, the helical gears are always preferred as over to spur gears. So velocity ratio can be achieved from up to 10:1. We can achieve the velocity ratio up to 10:1. For more velocity ratio, spur gears and helical gears are very costly. Because the size of the gears is much more. That's why for higher velocity ratio, the spur and helical are not used. In case of bevel gear, the shafts are not parallel, they are at 90 degree. They are at 90 degree. So when we have to transfer the power at 90 degree, then bevel gears are useful. Okay, in case of worm gear, there is a meshing of the worm and worm gear. Worm gear is having some involute profile. So in gear, two profiles are mainly used. One is involute and one is cycloidal. So what is involute? What is involute? Involute is, suppose there is a circle and there is a tangent. Let the tangent is tt dash. When this tangent rolls about this circle without slipping, then the locus of a point on this tangent is of a point P on this tangent is involute profile. So in case of involute and cycloid, both profiles follows the fundamental law of gearing. Fundamental law of gearing is also very important. What is fundamental law of gearing? Fundamental law of gearing says that, suppose there is a pinion, there is a meshing with the gear, pinion is having some teeth, gear is also having some teeth, there is a contact between both the teeth at point C. So the normal at point C, this is the normal NN. When this normal passes through the pitch point, then fundamental law of gearing is satisfied, and there is no interference between the pinion and the gear. Okay, so only two profiles, one is involute and one is cycloid, both follows the fundamental law of gearing. Okay, so in industries, mainly two pressure angles are preferred. One is 20 degree pressure angle and one is 14.5 degree pressure angle. It has been found that minimum number of the teeth on the pinion must be 18 to avoid the interference in case of 20 degree profile, and minimum number of the teeth must be 34 in case of 14.5 degree pressure. Okay. The formula for the minimum number of teeth is given by Z minimum equal to 2 by sine square alpha. Right. So this is something about the gear terminology. We have also discussed about the rolling contact bearing and slide contact bearing, and also about the connecting rod and crankshaft. Crankshaft is basically designed on the basis of bending moment also, and on the basis of torque also. है ना. Suppose from bending moment point of view, we are getting the diameter of the shaft plate 82 mm from the bending moment point of view, and from torque point of view, maximum torque point of view, we are getting the diameter as 85 mm. Suppose, then we will take the bigger of the two. So crankshaft or shafts are basically designs on many criteria. Yeah, so I am listing the criteria. First criteria is the strength criteria. Second criteria is the torsional rigidity criteria, in which we worry about the angle of twist, theta. We are worrying about the angle of twist. So there is a limitation on this angle of twist. So in that case, the shafts are designed on the basis of torsional rigidity. Shafts are designed on the basis of strength. Shafts are also designed on the basis of lateral rigidity. Lateral rigidity. So if you are getting the dimension, suppose A millimeter from first case, B millimeter from second case, C millimeter from third case, then finally you have to take the maximum of these diameters, A, B, C, so that the design of the crankshaft is safe in all the cases. And it should be safe in all the cases, as per the strength also, torsional also, lateral. If you take the minimum value, then the design will be safe as per the only one criteria. It will not be safe as per the other criteria. So suppose on a shaft there is a bending moment M is acting, torque T is acting, then what is the equivalent torque? So equivalent torque is given by M square plus T square. And what is the equivalent bending moment? Equivalent bending moment is given by half of M plus under root M square plus T square. Okay. What is the value of the so this just I have revised in very less time. काफी फास्ट किया है, थोड़ा थोड़ा कुछ आपको रिवाइज हुआ होगा, है ना. इसके अलावा और आप जो भी जानना चाहते हैं आप पूछ सकते हैं, क्वेरी कर सकते हैं. तो मैं समराइज कर दूं कि मतलब डिजाइन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आपको क्या प्रिपरेशन करनी चाहिए शॉर्ट टाइम में. यू शुड नो द फेलियर ऑफ थ्योरीज एज पर द स्टैटिक लोड क्राइटेरिया. देयर आर 5 थ्योरीज. You should know the statement of each and every theory. Statement of each and every theory. ठीक है. तो जैसे मैं किसी एक थ्योरी का स्टेटमेंट आपको बोल के बताता हूँ. सपोज मैं आपको किसी एक थ्योरी का ले लेते हैं. मान लीजिए आई एम टेकिंग दैट आई एम फर्स्ट क्लियर द इंक देयर. तो मान लीजिए हम डिस्टॉर्शन एनर्जी थ्योरी का स्टेटमेंट बोलना चाहते हैं. सपोज आई वांट टू explain the statement of this distortion energy theory. So in case of distortion energy theory, one principal stress acting sigma 1, second principal acting sigma 2. Due to this sigma 1, there is some distortion energy. As per sigma 2, there is some distortion energy. So the final distortion energy is given by sigma 1 square plus sigma 2 square minus sigma 1 sigma 2. सिग्मा 1 स्क्वायर प्लस सिग्मा 2 स्क्वायर माइनस सिग्मा सिग्मा 2. मैं बाई एक्सएल की बात कर रहा हूँ, डिवाइडेड बाई 2, है ना. जब हम डिराइव करते हैं तो ये टोटल डिस्टॉर्शन एनर्जी आती है इस पर्टिकुलर ऑब्जेक्ट में जो स्टोर होती है ड्यू टू द स्ट्रेसेस एंड फोर्सेस. सो दिस इज द डिस्टॉर्शन एनर्जी थ्योरी. एंड व्हेन वी डू द टेंसाइल टेस्ट ऑन द यूनिवर्सल टेस्टिंग मशीन, है ना, इन द मटेरियल साइंस लैब, व्हेन यू डू द when you prepare the specimen for the tensile test and you do the tensile testing. So as per that tensile test, the material fails at some stress. Let that stress is sigma. So due to this stress, what is the maximum distortion energy stored? Yeah, so suppose that distortion energy is sigma square divided by 2e. That strain energy is sigma square divided by 2e. Then you can say this sigma can be replaced by S by T, है ना, ultimate tensile strength. Then this will be S by T square divided by 2e. So statement says the distortion energy stored in the biaxial case must be less than equal to the distortion energy stored in case of uniaxial testing. है ना. So 2e cancel out. The formula is sigma 1 square plus sigma 2 square minus sigma 1 sigma 2 equal to S by T square. So this is the equation of the ellipse basically. So similarly, principal stress के case में the principal stress produced in the component in the biaxial case must be less than equal to the principal stress in the uniaxial test है, tensile test specimen. तो हर थ्योरी का आप स्टेटमेंट ऐसे ही बना सकते हैं. In case of principal stress, you are comparing the principal stress. In case of shear stress theory, you are comparing the shear stress. In case of principal stress theory, you are comparing the strain produced in the biaxial case and strain produced in the uniaxial case. Similarly, in the other theories. So you should know the statement of all the theories, and you should know the statement of Goodman theory. What is Goodman line? Goodman line is a line which joins the endurance point on the ordinate with the ultimate point on the abscissa. Ordinate axis means y-axis and abscissa is the x-axis. Similarly, Soderberg line is a line which joins SE on the ordinate with the SYT with the abscissa. Garber parabola is a parabola which joins SE on the ordinate to the SYT on the abscissa. So these are the, and you should also know the reverse bending. What is reverse bending? In case of reverse bending, the mean stress is 0. In fluctuating case, there are two stresses, sigma m and sigma e. So in case of reverse bending, sigma m equal to 0. So only the stress is sigma e, for which I have to worry. So what we do, the endurance limit should be equal to sigma e divided by factor of safety. So in case of reverse bending, we use this formula, right? And when sigma m is not 0, then we have to go for the Goodman. And for Goodman, we use sigma e divided by SE plus sigma m divided by SUT equal to 1 by factor of safety. When it's not 0. So when then you have to use Goodman, and when sigma m is 0, put 0 over here, 0 by something, it is 0. So your formula will be again sigma A equal to SC divided by FS. In this way, you can generalize formulas. So I think we have covered a lot of things. Springs we have covered. In case of screw jack, so when the length of the screw is higher, screw sometimes we have such a short column, sometimes we have as a long column. So when it is behaving as a long column, then we prefer the Euler theory. What we prefer? Euler theory. As per the Euler theory, the crippling load, the crippling load is given by pi square EI divided by L square. E is the modulus of elasticity, I is the moment of inertia, L is the length of the column. And there are 4 types of cases. In column, if you study, there are 4 types of cases. So I am just explaining that those 4 types, those are important. So sometimes the column is fixed at both the places, at the bottom also, at the top also, the column is fixed. Sometimes the column is fixed at only one place and the other end is free. Sometimes the column is hinged at both the places. Here also and here also it is hinged. Hinge at the top and hinge at the bottom. This is one case. And one more case is there when the column is hinged over here. Column is fixed over here and it is hinged over here. These are the 4 cases. So for these 4 cases, what are the end fixity coefficient? End fixity coefficient. So in the calculation of the crippling load, the end fixity coefficient is very much important. So when the column is short, we prefer the Johnson formula for calculating the crippling load. And in case of long column, Euler formula is used for calculating the crippling load. So for these conditions, when it is hinged at both places, then n equal to 1. It is fixed at both places, then n equal to 2, n equal to 4. And for this case, one hinge and one fixed, it is n equal to 2. And one fixed and free, the n equal to 0.25. Very important, these 4 things. End fixity coefficients in case of column. So in case of column, Euler theory, some idea about the Euler theory, some idea about the Johnson theory, and some idea about the end fixity coefficient. And one more important parameter in case of column is L by K. L by K is known as slenderness ratio. It is known as slenderness ratio. If this ratio L by k is 80, है ना? L by k is less than equal to 80, then the column is considered short column, and when this ratio is more than equal to 80, then the column is considered a long column. And as per the short and long, there are different theories, like Johnson and Euler's. Accordingly, we can design the columns. So we have covered columns also. And one more important thing, let's discuss about some beams. So in case of beams, you should know some generalized formulas like this. I'm taking first case. Let this is a simply supported beam. The load is acting at the middle. The bearing is at A point and bearing at B point. So in this case, what is the maximum bending moment? So maximum bending moment is given by PL by 4. ये आपको याद होना चाहिए. It is very generalized case. है ना? Calculation करने की जरूरत ना पड़े. It should be, you should remember it. है ना? Because the load is P, then this reaction is P by 2. This reaction is also P by 2. So bending moment will be maximum at the middle point. So for this point, force into distance. So force is P by 2. The length is L by 2 because the total length of the column is L. This is the middle point. So this is L by 2. This is L by 2. So this will be PL by 4. You should remember. Suppose now the force is not concentrated. It is not a point load. And it is acting UDL in this form. And in that case, the point A, the point B, the moment will be again more at point C. So reactions are again P by 2, P by 2. Reactions are again same. So in this case, what is the maximum bending moment? So maximum bending moment is given by WL square divided by 8. Here W is the intensity of the load. The intensity of the load, and the unit of this intensity is Newton per meter. So the maximum bending moment is WL square by 8. Now, two cases. And what is the, I am again taking the third case. Let there is a cantilever. It is free here and the load is acting over here, P. What is the bending moment and where it acts? So in this case, the maximum bending moment is given by P into, बताइए कितना आएगा? Maximum bending moment is given by PL and it will act at the support. There is only one support in the cantilever beam, so it will act here, PL. And the last case, fourth, the cantilever is there and there is a UDL over here for the length L of the cantilever. And the intensity is W. So what is the maximum bending moment in this case? Anyone? W L square by 2. ये याद रखिए PL by 4 है ना, PL by 4, WL square by 8, PL and WL square by 2 है ना. अक्सर जब आप आमने सामने होते हैं इंटरव्यूज में तो ये चीजें मतलब दो एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि आप इनके आंसर्स ऐसे ही बता सकें विदाउट एनी कैलकुलेशन. So these four are very generalized cases. Remember the formula for the maximum bending moment for these specialized cases. So we have discussed about the beams also and some part of mechanics also. Some column theory, some idea about the gears, bearing, springs. I think I have covered much more things in very less time. So now if you have any query, please ask. Otherwise, we will meet in the tomorrow class. So this is all from my side. So if you have any query, please ask. I am stop sharing. I see the chat window first. The net is slow. Initially, the net was slow. So now, am I audible? Yes, Mr. Janmejay Sharma, am I audible? Sailesh, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, okay. आवाज ठीक आ रही थी लेक्चर के दौरान?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. चलिए. तो मैंने काफी कम समय में काफी चीजों को कवर करने की कोशिश की है क्योंकि टाइम कम है. तो आज काफी चीजें कर ली हैं हमने और जो थोड़ा बहुत रह जाती हैं that we will cover in the next class. Okay.
Right, sir.
So if you have any query in the today's lecture, please unmute your mic and ask. You are going to appear in the Tata Power. So it is basically generation of the electricity with the help of power plants. So in the case of power plants, they are boilers. So you have to design the boiler. So in case of boiler, you should know about something about the pressure vessels. So pressure vessels are generally affected by two type of stresses. One is longitudinal stress, which is given by PD by 40, and another one is PD by 2T, that is known as hoop stress. And hoop stress is double of the longitudinal stress. And pressure vessels are again classified as thin pressure vessels and thick pressure vessels. So from power point of view, pressure vessel and heat exchangers, design of the heat exchangers, pressure vessels, thin pressure vessels, thick pressure vessels. And for the boilers, you should also know about the riveted joint and the welded joints. And nowadays, the riveted joints are not used in the manufacturing of the boilers to joining the cells. In joining these cells, in case of boilers and pressure vessels, nowadays welding is preferred because it is quite cheaper as compared to riveting. Why welding is cheaper as compared to riveting? Because in case of riveting, we have to do the holes in the pressure vessel for inserting the rivet, and then holes require some cost. And the weight of the pressure vessel is again more because the weight of the rivet is almost to 1.5% of the total weight of the pressure vessel. So there are much more advantages of the welded joint over the riveted joint. And you should also study the threaded joint. So I have discussed about some power plant machinery, boilers, riveted joint, these designing parameters, and which code is followed in the design of the boilers. You should know the name IBR, Indian Boiler Regulation. Indian Barrel Regulation, it is having, it is under the code ASME Section 8 Division 1. Under that code, many rules and regulations, terms, conditions are mentioned in that code. How much ovality is acceptable. So everything is written over here. You have to follow and perform according. So this is something about the fire. So appear, my best wishes are with you. Prepare for the attempt and do अपना जितना अच्छा आप कर सकते हैं उतना करें. So से समय भी हो गया है ना, आप लोगों को भी बस वगैरह पकड़नी हो. May I close now? हाँ जी, हम मीटिंग एंड कर सकते हैं. Anyone? Okay, चलिए. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much.